Hi, I'm Tara. If you're new here, welcome to A Little Good News with Tara. I wanted to talk today about things that kids say and kids do. Sometimes they just catch us off guard. Mine aren't little anymore, but I've got grandkids that are little, and they sometimes they catch me off guard. They say and do the funniest stuff. Um, I can be in another room and I can hear my husband laughing. I know he's watching TV, and I can go in to where he is and see what he's laughing at so hard. And he's watching one of those videos on the funny things kids do. He really likes those, and he likes the ones about the funny animals. So I have seen some funny videos just walking through and seeing what he's watching and laughing so hard about. But like the little boy that's trying to talk about his truck. He's trying to tell you about his truck, but it doesn't come out as truck. It rhymes with truck, but it's he's not saying truck. And then there's the little girl who's dressed up as a witch for Halloween, and she's trying to tell you about it, but it doesn't roll off her tongue just right. She's not saying witch, but bless her heart, she's she's trying to. The little boy that's holding the big stick, and he's trying to tell you about his big stick, but it just doesn't come out of his mouth right. I'm sorry, but that's funny. But it's not just the mispronunciations. It's gosh, the little boy that's watching his mama put on makeup, and he says, "Why do you put that stuff on your face?" And she said, "Well, mommy thinks that it makes her prettier." And he studies on it for a minute, and he says, "I don't think it's working." That is so funny. That is so funny. That's just like a little kid. They just say whatever. And they're honest, sometimes brutally honest. There's so many times, especially with my own kids, that I can think of about 100 just off the top of my head that they've said stuff that just made me drop my jaw, like, what? Did you just say that? My youngest son, I have three. I have a girl and two boys. They're close in age. They range from 30 to 35. One time we were in church when they were little, and I think it was my youngest. It could have been my oldest. I don't remember. It's been a while, but I was in front of the preacher and some other people, and everyone was talking, and one of them come up to me. I gotta poop. I got poop now. And I thought at the time, well, gosh, I'm so embarrassed. But gosh, it made for a good memory because I can look back on it now and think, that is so doggone funny. It was something like that all the time, with little ones, you're going to have that probably on a daily basis. But somebody that comments on my videos, I'm not going to call any names, but he was telling me when he was a young fella, he might have been responsible for his two younger brothers, and on several occasions. And one time they had to go to Sears. Their dad had taken them to Sears. He was after plumbing supplies, and his dad told him, "Okay, you're in charge of your brothers." Well, while Dad was looking for plumbing supplies, one of the little brothers had to go to the bathroom, and there were toilets out there. So I guess he thought, well, there's somewhere good to do number two, and so he did. That's just like something a little one would do, right? There's just so many times, but I want to tell y'all, when I was expecting the first time, I told myself something so funny, because it's so funny now, but at the time I was so serious. Now, this was my first child, and I was expecting, so she hadn't got here yet, so I didn't know. But I remember telling myself, when I would go in grocery stores and there would be a little one just having a fit, they probably tired, could have been hungry, maybe didn't feel good, Most of the time it's tired, though. I think when I see little kids just pitching a fit, I think, gosh, they're so tired. But I would see kids before I knew better. I would, I would think my child would never act like that. Just not going to happen. After she was born, less than 2 years later, she was followed by her brother. And 2.5 years later, she was followed by another brother. It didn't take me long to figure out my kids are going to act like everybody else's kids, and they're going to pitch fits, and they're going to do all the they're going to stump in the mud holes as you're trying to get them in the car to go somewhere important. They're going to do all the things that other people's kids do. But looking back on it, doggone, they were so funny as little ones. And now I've got 3 grands, the oldest being a granddaughter. They come just the way mine came. The oldest is a granddaughter, and she's 2 brothers came in after her. So that just something funny all the time. One time, it's been 2 or 3 years, I had them. There's a creek around here that people go swimming in. And we were out there and we were having such a good time. They had found other kids to play with and talk to, and just kind of made friends with other kids right off the bat. And I was sitting on a rock just watching them, just having a good time. Sometimes I talked with the other parents for a minute, and then we'd talk to other people. And all of a sudden, this mom and dad started grabbing up their kids and getting away from us. She said, okay, well, it's time to go, and yanked up her little ones and went on upstream. And then I noticed the people that was real close to us on the other side might have went a little further downstream. It's like we had that whole section to ourselves, and I thought, well, that's kind of weird. Why did she do that? And my oldest grandson turned around. Of course, he was little, and it was shallow water. And he was peeing in the creek with little ones, kids all around. I'm sure I turned red as a beet. I mean, but looking back, doggone. And I said, you can't do that. You've got to go behind a tree or something. You can't do that. And he said, why? And I said, because people are ducking in and out of the water, and they might accidentally drink some of this creek water, and they don't want to drink that. And so I think he kind of understood, but at the time it was a little bit traumatic for me, because I tend to embarrass a little easy. Not so much now. I've got a few years on me, but a few years back, yeah, it was so fun. It's so fun. Looking back on this stuff, it was so funny. Yeah, when these little ones, when they get tired and they get cranky, they've had a long day. And don't think for 1 minute they don't have long days just like we do. But did y'all see the one about the little girl that should come home from school, and her mom said, what did you learn today? And she said, I learned about Martin Luther King, but she said it kind of different, like Martha Luther King or something, Lucan, something like that. And her mom said, really? Well, tell me about him. Who is he? Who was he? And she said, well, he died for our sins. They just get stuff mixed up. Kids are so funny. And I'm sure I was too, and I'm sure my mother was too, but yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all. I'm not even sure they're kids. They're probably just angels. I know one thing for sure, they're blessings. But yeah, I wanted to share that with y'all. Thanks for watching.